Hi everybody, my name is Angel Harrington and I'm going to be discussing with you tonight my project for my weather and climate class. My presentation is on largest disasters to hit the United States. This is for Erin Grunke, and I hope that you all enjoy it. I'm going to hopefully be able to get through the next 20 minutes or so without kids coming and knocking on the door, because that's been happening a lot the last several attempts at this. So I am also on my cell phone, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me because I'm not that computer savvy, so I'm hoping that this works right. So anyways, I hope that you enjoy. I've enjoyed doing this project. I've actually learned several things, and it piqued my interest in more areas as well. I've always had a passion for weather. Since I was a little kid, I've always had an interest in, thunderstorms, and when everybody else is running for cover, I'm running to the front door so I can go and be watching it firsthand. So that was when this project came up, that was the first thing that popped in my head, is this is perfect. So instead of focusing on just one part of the weather, I decided I would attempt to do this on the largest natural disasters to hit the United States. So I hope that you enjoy. Okay, I'm trying to get this to where it's all in here. Let's try that. Okay, so largest disasters to hit the United States. In this picture here, you can see this is a picture of tornado damage, lightning strikes, tornadoes in action, hurricanes, fires, thunderstorms rolling in. It's got just a lot of different storms in that picture. I'm sorry, I couldn't get it bigger for you. Okay, depending on the cause of event, disasters are classified as either a natural or man-made. Natural disasters are often seen as equal opportunity events. It doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, black, white, old, or young. Natural disasters are events such as flood, earthquake, hurricanes that cause great damage or sometimes loss of life. To be classified as a natural disaster, an event needs to meet the following: a considerable amount of energy supplied by natural forces. The energy must then be focused in the right environment. A concentration of assets or people within the focus of the event. Any change in the climate can fuel frequent and extreme natural disasters, adding to the problem. Natural disasters hit large sections of the United States every year. Hurricanes. And this one, to me, was really interesting also because the last several years that my family has gone on vacation for fall break, we have been affected by hurricanes. And we luckily have not been in a large one, but we have been affected by, some smaller category 1 and 2 hurricanes that are still just as scary when you've got small kids. But I can only imagine what it would be like to be in a larger hurricane. So hurricanes are based on wind speed. The cost of damage, deaths, intensity, and width are a few ways to define the largest hurricane. It is also necessary to record if the measurements were recorded at landfall or the hurricane's life cycle. The deadliest hurricane to hit the United States was in 1900, called the Great Galveston Hurricane. Estimates range from between 8,000 to 12,000 lives lost. An accurate number is hard to get because so many people also died in the recovery efforts. On September 8, 1900, a Category 4 hurricane with a storm surge of 8 to 15 feet hit Galveston, Texas. No one was prepared or even knew it was coming. In the 1900s, they didn't have the technology to help warn anyone. This is the reason for such high death tolls. Today, with all of the technology that we have, meteorologists and the National Weather Service are able to give you a few days' notice. We have enough time to get windows and doors boarded up, sandbags around your property, or to even evacuate. Costliest hurricane. Hurricanes range from a Category 1 to a Category 5. You think the bigger the hurricane, the more the damage, but that's not always the case. For example, Hurricane Katrina was a Category 3, but was the costliest in the history of the United States. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina had property damages over $125 billion. On August 16, 1992, Hurricane Andrew was a Category 5. This hurricane cost $48 billion. In 1992, Hurricane Andrew was currently listed as the most costliest until Hurricane Katrina. Now Andrew is the 5th most costliest hurricane. This one was a personal one for me because I used to work at a bank and all of our loans that we serviced were in the New Orleans area. So, everyone that we had down there lost everything. And so when you would call to talk to that person or they were calling in, they're giving you their stories of, what happened that day and losing their family members and how some of them, sat there and watched their kids, brother, sister, parents, whoever, drowned right in front of them. And there was nothing they could do. And it was absolutely just gut-wrenching to, know that you were helpless, that you couldn't help them. And the only way that we were able to help them that day was to be able to sit there and listen to them and, try and do everything that we could to help them as far as, a little bit of, we're here if you need us, that type of thing. So this one here just really kind of hit personal with me because it brought back a lot of memories from, talking with some of the survivors from Hurricane Katrina. Tornado. This is another one that's very personal to me. My uncle was a meteorologist and also worked for the emergency management in our area. He was the one who tracked all of the storms and, let first responders know what was going on with the weather in our area. And I would sit in his office on numerous occasions, tracking the storms coming in or if there was a tornado touchdown or, whatever the case might be. And it was always a passion for he and I that we wanted to go and chase a tornado. That was one thing that was on our bucket list that we wanted to do together. And unfortunately, we never did get to because 3 years ago, he passed away very suddenly. So, even though he, is not here with me, I know that one of these days I'm going to get to do that and he will be guiding me along then. So this one is another one that's very personable to me. Tornadoes are a mobile, destructive vortex of violently rotating winds having the appearance of a funnel-shaped cloud and advancing beneath a large storm. Central Oklahoma holds the record for both the largest and strongest tornadoes ever recorded. On May 31st, 2013, El Reno, Oklahoma, a tornado touched down measuring 2.6 miles wide, the widest tornado in recorded history. This tornado was part of a larger storm system that produced dozens of tornadoes over a couple of days. This tornado killed storm chasers Tim Samaras, his son Paul Samaras, and Carl Young. Tim founded Twistex, which is Tactical Weather Instrumented Sampling Inner-Near Tornadoes Experiment. The group researched and chased tornadoes. They were chasing this one when they got too close. The tornado was originally an EF3. It was later reclassified as an EF5. Wind speeds over 200 miles an hour and 16.2 miles in length across and 2.6 miles wide. The tornado touched down at 6:03 p.m. Central Standard Time and ended at 6:43 p.m. And if you ever watched the TV show Storm Chasers, Tim and his crew with Twistex were on there a lot on the Discovery Channel. That was also another show that I used to love watching when it was on TV. Since 1950, there have been 59 F5 tornadoes. In Alabama and Oklahoma, both have had 7 F5 tornadoes. Iowa, Kansas, and Texas, all 3 have had 6 F5 tornadoes to touch down. Next we have flood. A flood is an overflow of water that submerges land that is usually dry. In the sense of flowing water, the word may also be applied to the inflow of the tide. Floods are an area of study of the discipline hydrology and are of significant concern in agriculture, civil engineering, and public health. The worst flood in the history of the United States was the 1989 Johnston flood in Johnston, Pennsylvania. 2,209 people died. 99 entire families died. 396 were children. 124 women and 198 men were left widowed. 750 people were never identified. 1,600 homes were destroyed and 17 million in property damages. South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club owned the dam that failed. The dam contained 20 million tons of water, which is the same amount of water that goes over Niagara Falls in 36 minutes, which I've never been to or seen, but I know the pictures and videos I've seen of it. That's a massive amount of water. Johnston had suffered additional floods since this one, again in 1936 and 1977. But at this particular day, at least once a year, one of the 2 rivers would overflow into the streets. The people were used to moving items and personal belongings up higher into their houses or businesses. No one ever expected the dam to give away that day. The employees of South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club worked vigorously to try and keep the water away from the dam. Around 3 p.m., the Johnston community were settling in for the evening, not aware of the devastation that was fixing to happen. The employees and club members stood in shock and dumbfound horror as the dam just gave away. Within an hour, the lake moved into the valley and rolled into Johnston town, which was 14 miles away. In a matter of minutes, the 14 miles was now nothing but debris of houses, barns, animals, and people, both dead and alive. Earthquakes. Earthquakes is a sudden, violent shaking of the ground, sometimes causing great destruction as a result of movements within the Earth's crust or volcanic action. An earthquake is the shaking of the surface of the Earth, resulting from the sudden release of energy in the Earth's lithosphere. That creates seismic waves. Earthquakes range in size from those that are weak, that they cannot be felt, to those violent enough to toss people around and destroy whole cities. Earthquakes are caused mostly by rupture of geological faults, but also by other events such as volcanic activity, landslides, mine blasts, and nuclear tests. An earthquake's point of initial rupture is called its focus, or hypocenter. The epicenter is the point at ground level directly above the hypocenter. Earthquakes can strike at any time, at any location, but history shows they occur in the same general pattern year after year, principally in 3 large zones of the Earth. Personally, here where we live at, we have had several small earthquakes, but we've never had any large ones. Thank goodness. Pacific seismic belt. 81% of the largest earthquakes occur on the Pacific side. Alpine earthquakes belt is 17% of the earthquakes that happen on the Atlantic side. And then there is the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, which is deep underwater and far from human development. On a chart of 1 to 9, the first 8 earthquakes all happened in Alaska, and they are range from a 9.2 to an 8.0 on the Richter scale. The following all tied for 9th place. February 7th, 1812 was New Madrid, Missouri at 7.9. January 9th, 1857, Fort Tejon, California, a 7.9. And on April 3rd, 1868, Cow District Island of Hawaii was also a 7.9 on the Richter scale. I included man-made disasters because when I was researching and doing my project, I also started looking at fires because I thought fire would classify as a natural disaster, but everything was coming up that it was a man-made disaster. So I kind of had a misconception on that all along, so I wanted to include fire in here as well. So I figured I would kind of give you a little background as what a man-made disaster is, so that way you know the difference, because I knew what man-made were, but I just didn't really picture fire being in there with it either. So man-made disasters are hazards caused by an individual, such as hazardous material, spills, fires, groundwater contamination, transportation accidents, structure failures, mining, and etc. Man-made disasters are so diverse in origin that to be defined as a man-made disaster, it is merely classified as large and far-reaching effects, serious damage caused, it must be reported, and the cause assessed. So for fires, a rapid oxidation of a material in the exothermic chemical process of combustion, releasing heat, light, and various reaction products. At a certain point in the combustion reaction, called the ignition point, flames are produced. A lot of people think that the largest fire was the Camp Fire. In 2018, that killed 85 people. This was the deadliest and the biggest fire in California history, but not in the United States as a whole. The Great Fire, also known as the Big Burn, Big Blow Up, or the Devil's Broom Fire, ravaged the states of Idaho, Montana in the summer of 1910. The blaze burned for only 2 days. Due to the strong winds, the initial blaze melded smaller ones to form a larger fire. 3 million acres were burnt, and at least 85 people were killed. So that is my presentation on, sorry guys, didn't mean to. That's my presentation for you on natural disasters to hit the United States. I hope that you did learn a little bit. I did, and it's intrigued my interest that I wanted to do a little bit more research on some of them, and probably could have had another 20 to 30 minutes on here, but I tried to keep it short, tried to keep it to the point on a lot of things. The Johnstown, that one, you know, because it was kind of similar with me with Hurricane Katrina with the flooding and everything, I found there was several people that had written books on some of their personal experiences, and so I've read a little bit onto some of those, not much yet, so I want to definitely read those a little bit more, but it has sparked